Hello, my raccoon friends. What is going on with you? First of all, you are talented, but also shadowy and in hiding. I'm wondering if maybe you are needing to deal with your shadows a bit. Why are you hiding? All right, let's see what the book has to say. Raccoon energy is at play within all artists to a greater or lesser degree. At best, it indicates talent, tenacity, and skillfulness with a particular musical instrument or creative tool. Its shadow side points to an unresolved issue around self-image and success. I knew there was some shadow issues going on. Sometimes using a stage name or wearing a mask works in an artist's favor. I have seen that. Other times, it limits creativity. Am I who my audience thinks I am? What if I am ready to grow into something more? Raccoon energy won't let us off the hook until this creative ego fear is resolved. So, the thing I have seen people, artists, who wearing a mask help them to allow their creative side to come out. So it really wasn't a long-term solution. It was a temporary tool to help them feel comfortable to be more fully themselves. So when somebody says mask or masking and has a very negative take on it, I don't agree entirely. I don't think it's a long-term solution to anything, but in the short term, I think it can be a useful tool and very helpful to someone who is feeling a little uncertain, a little insecure, trying to find their footing. I mean, I do a faceless tarot reading channel, but I also don't think I'm important to my readings. The readings are for you, and they are about you. I am just the messenger. So I want to keep the focus off of me because it's not about me. But yes, I have seen masks be a very useful tool for creative people who are finding their footing, so to speak. Like I said, I don't think it's a long-term solution, but maybe that's where you're at. All right, let's move on to the tea leaf cards. These are the round ones, of course. And we start off with target, a goal-oriented person. I don't know if that's you or somebody else in your life. These should all be familiar to you so that you can, it can help you identify whether or not this is your reading. Finger, warning you of a problem, either now or in the near future. Now, I want to mention that when this came out, it fell on the floor. It didn't fall on the table, but it came out in reverse. So, if you look at the cards that it's pointing at, or maybe pointing at, we either have the goal-oriented person or the bridge, successfully overcoming a problem. And that probably involves communication as well. And then we have arrow. You are on the right path regarding some aspect of your life. I find it interesting that you have two things pointing that direction, whatever that means to you. Okay, we also have great passion and vacation. So maybe you have a vacation coming up, or maybe you had a vacation where you met somebody. Or maybe you are simply very passionate about your vacations. I used to work with someone like that. Actually, we were all very passionate about his vacations because he was so much easier to work with afterwards. So there's definitely a few possibilities in interpretation there. But these should be familiar to you. I'm not sure familiar is the right word, but they should tell you about things you already know. How about that? Okay. Now then, moving on. Let's see. Do we want to go with... Oddly enough, I'm drawn to the Field Tarot. The Field Tarot is, I think it's loosely based on the Aleister Crowley deck, the Thoth Tarot, which is a little different, a little more intense, I find. The original Thoth Tarot, if you can find it, is a very beautiful deck. I think it's probably the most beautiful tarot deck I own, but I don't read from it very often, or read with it very often, because its voice is a bit harsh, I think. Now this is interesting. We have the Empress in reverse and the Princess of Swords in reverse. So we're not off to a good start here. The Empress in reverse, the Empress understands and is part of the natural cycles of life. She flows with them, or they, because it is false to call something like that male or female. It is simply part of being human, part of being alive. And then we have the Princess of Swords, which more accurately is the Page of Swords. Again, gender neutral, at least in my view. But this one is in reverse, so where the Page of Swords should be an avid learner, somebody who is eager and willing, open-minded, ready to learn new things. This one is in reverse, so perhaps we have something like, you know, the teenagers who think they know everything and really know nothing. I'm reminded of the cup that is already full. You can't add to it. So that's kind of mentality. So an unwillingness to learn, an unwillingness to listen. Next we have Justice and the Three of Discs. Well, that's interesting. It seems to be a progression. So there may have been a sense of everything should just flow to me, I shouldn't have to make any effort, and I already know everything I need to know. And so just a lot of entitlement going on. Again, that sulky, entitled teenager kind of attitude towards life, the universe, and everything. But then we have Justice. This is a call to be rebalanced and to take accountability, to take responsibility for actions and inactions. Communication, of course. But we also have, we have this sword here. So we also have the Three of Discs next to it, which is Three of Pentacles. So this is about collaborating, working with others. Again, the theme of communication. But these are positive cards. So moving from this sort of entitled, know-it-all teenager attitude to something much more balanced, much more adult, a great deal more maturity, fairness, accountability, accepting accountability and responsibility, and learning to work with others, communicate. So I'm not sure, there's only one person here. So it does look like a progression. I do have my Thoth deck here. And I have to tell you, in all honesty, the Justice card in the Thoth deck is one of my favorites. So, there it is. You can see there's a lot of similarity between these two images. Justice is usually represented with these, the balance scale. It is not always represented with a sword. So the swords are in the suit of swords in tarot represent thinking, intellect, rationality, truth-seeking, all good things for justice. So there seems to be a really positive change here. Someone really working on becoming more aware of how things really work, how their life has really been going, and trying to perhaps make amends as well. Because it's not enough to simply say, I'm sorry. You have to truly make amends in whatever way you can. Sometimes it's much more difficult than others. For example, if the person that you have wronged is no longer here on this earthly plane, how do you make amends? That will vary for each of you, and hopefully that is not what you are dealing with. But there does seem to have been a humbling, which was very needed to bring you from this energy into a willingness to collaborate. All right. Let's see what the universe wants to say to you. Delicate situation. I believe it. If you're wearing a mask as a sort of cocoon, a protective shield, while you take your first steps towards something new and different, then I can understand why this, you may be feeling a bit fragile right now. But we have Anvil, Resolve, Purpose, Focus, and Stallion, Break Free. So, concentration, resilient, take determined action, strength and persistence. So moving from this fragile state into something stronger, something forged. So the experiences of life aren't supposed to break us, they're supposed to forge us into something stronger, something more resilient, more focused, something in control of, not unbridled. If you have the strong emotions, they're not going to go away, but you'll be in control of them. Let's see. All right, next we have doorbell and loons. Oh dear. Definitely going to need to be in control of those emotions. So, something is coming. Something, someone is coming. It may be an opportunity. It may be a new person, possibly, or a return of someone. But we have deeply committed, uncommon bonds, family, all in for what you love, and reawaken lost hopes. But the situation is definitely very unstable, hostile, perhaps. It's going to take some effort to break free of it, obviously. And I think it's going to take disciplined effort, disciplined, sustained effort. I don't think an unbridled approach is the way to go about it. So it is a complicated situation. Wolverine, yeah. Still, the inner demons exist. Proceed with caution. And yet, the Wolverine is probably one of the least cautious animals in existence. It is very, very fierce, very aggressive. It can and does win against much larger animals because it is so fierce and aggressive. It is fearless and determined. So you have serious issues to deal with. You can't sweep them under the rug. You can't pretend they don't exist. Perhaps some of these issues are being a bit wild and unpredictable. Some inner demons here. So there are cards have multiple meanings, and these cards, they don't have reversed meanings. All of the meanings are there are printed right there. You have a reference here to resilience again, but I think these two are warning that you have serious issues to deal with, and being unpredictable and wild is not perhaps the best approach. Instead, it looks like lifting out of negativity, being present, perhaps taking a more positive approach to life, which may be, if you've always been a very negative person, this may be very strange or challenging, honestly, very challenging. To go from being a very negative person to being a more positive person, that's not, I don't think that's easy to do. And it will take time. There's no card here about patience, but it might be needed. Yeah. You have a very complicated situation, and you may want to move very quickly because there is a strong desire to act on yearning. So this seems like you may be someone who is a bit impulsive, and you don't want to take the time to untangle the yarn that you are in the midst of. But this live fast, take risks, do it now, it's just not always the best approach. This is a delicate situation. And trying to be overly aggressive and take rapid impulsive action, that could really be disastrous. Perhaps you are that goal-oriented person that the tea leaves were talking about. And remember the finger was pointing right at that card. So it may be you really need to take a different approach. Let's see, what aren't you seeing right now? What do you need to... What aren't you seeing right now? Okay. We have going places. It says adventure. It also says mountain, problem, distance, solitude, pride. Pride can be a real problem. You or the person you're interested in. I don't think this is a physical trip. I think this is a step into solitude for a time. I'm getting kind of hermit's energy here. So we have delays here. And so you have all these cards about wanting to rush forward and really do things and get things done. I think there's a desire to cut through the knots instead of untangling them, which is really not the best approach many times. What do you need to know about this ship and mountain? Yeah. You need to take some time and get some clarity here. There's something you're not seeing clearly. Definitely a muddled, maybe mental fog. And negativity clouds judgment. Remember we were talking about that hummingbird card you had about finding positivity, lifting up out of negativity. And I think that's something you haven't learned yet. You want to just run off and get things moving, but yeah, perfect timing, synchronicity, teamwork, interconnected. All the pieces have to be in place and working together properly. And then with strategic planning, precision, cause and effect, progress, chain reaction. I think that's what you're looking for. It's a chain reaction. But you have to have all the pieces in place first. You have to have clarity of vision first. You have to have that positivity first. Negativity clouds judgment. You lack clarity. You're confused. Until that clears up, how are you going to have efficient, smooth, seamless, perfect timing, synchronicity, teamwork? And all the dominoes will fall in place when it's time. So I'm just getting that this is not the time for action for you. You may not want to hear that, but when I say it's not the time for action, I mean physical 3D action. As far as going internally, it's the time for that. It is most definitely the time for that. You have all this energy, this Wolverine energy, this stallion energy. So there's a lot of strength, a lot of energy, but now you need to learn how to direct it. And to do that, I think you need to take a mental journey. Mental or emotional or spiritual or all three. I think it's a time for you to look within. But why don't we check with the Shaman deck and see what it has to say? Those popped right out. we have 28 and 3. Arrow. Didn't we have an arrow in the tea leaf cards? It was either an arrow or a spear. That's interesting. All right. Let's start with 3 because I like to go in order. The arrow, the essence. Receiving this symbol reminds you that when you are in alignment with your heart and soul, you are on target and will soon be hitting your mark. It is the same as the tea leaf card. Be true to your calling, release attachments, and free yourself from the bondage of unbridled ambition. Didn't I say don't be unbridled? You need control. Now is revealed to be a moment of contact in which your intention meets the material world. The arrow also symbolizes the need to set your creativity free, which is how the mask works sometimes. I'm not saying it should be a permanent thing, but it can be a place to start. The invitation. When the arrow zings through the air, it is inviting you to pay attention, and it is signifying that you are about to make your mark in some aspect of your life. It illuminates the moment of contact when you know that your desires and intention have traveled on the wind and landed in the perfect place for your highest good. Trust that your job is to be relaxed yet focused, keeping your eye on the prize, yet releasing your intention with full expectation. I don't think you're good at that. There's a lot of cards here about wanting to charge ahead and kind of impose your will on things. Okay, don't worry about the how or the exact form. This is not a time to interfere with the manner in which the arrow flies. It will make its mark and you will have cause to celebrate. The medicine. This is a time to admit that by continuing on the path you are on, you might be shooting yourself in the foot. Could it be that you have become so attached to winning this game that you have missed the true mark? What if your arrow was never meant to land where you wanted it to? Now is the time to regroup and ask yourself if what you desire is really worth your energy. This is a sign that something better is waiting. Consider the wisdom in not getting what you want. Suffering in this case is a pathway to heal the parts of you that feel unworthy, the parts that worry there isn't enough. Make peace with those voices. What is truly yours will be waiting for you. You've got to work on the negativity. Okay, 28. 28. Oh, there's the hummingbird. But it didn't come out. In this deck, anyway. Jaguar, the essence. The jaguar is the protector of all life in the Amazon, and in times of fear, she brings courage and certainty. Jaguar is at the top of the food chain and never becomes prey. With great stealth, she can track her mark from a distance and not be seen or heard. She moves gracefully through the jungle, relishing the abundance of the rainforest, fearless and at ease. Jaguar knows the ways beyond death and is master of the shadows, blending invisibly between light and dark, night and day. That sounds pretty shadowy, like the raccoon. The invitation. The jaguar calls you to explore beyond the walls that confine you, to go outside your normal routine, to push your limits and boundaries. She is delivering an invitation from your own future to investigate the unknown, to venture into the mystery and the dark places you have been reluctant to explore. Toss all caution to the wind. Know that your jaguar instinct will serve you well. And apparently you really need to investigate your shadows. The medicine. What in your life needs to be released? What have you carried around with you for too long? Which is ready to be let go of once and for all. Jaguar medicine is available to heal the fear so you can allow it to go. It's time to come out of the shadows and end the shadow games that you may have unconsciously agreed to play. Call on Jaguar to unfetter you from toxic relationships and recover your natural instincts for the right people and situations. All right. So, I think you're really being called to shadow work here, honestly. That will definitely help you clear your vision, but it's not a quick or easy process. So be patient. Seek alignment. I am wishing you all the best. Good luck.